Good morning, and welcome to another truculent version of Diatribes from the voice of doom. Now here's your bellicose and belligerent host, voice of doom. Might be a little facetious. So it is the 1st of March. Weather's getting better. Petri Dish is going to give his speech tonight. I'm looking forward to that. I think a lot of people are. And the world's blowing up. And I wanted to do a few academic things, just stuff that I can impart to you. It has no bearing, but it's interesting. The Yuck-Reign. All right, from what I've looked at, it's kind of like the deplorable part of the United States. And it's a breadbasket. And they actually aren't backwards people. No, in America, even people that are slightly aware just kind of consider everybody in Asia kind of like, backwards. Like they're just still standing in line waiting for bread. But the history, early history, they were part of a migratory system. They were right in the middle of something with arrows on it on the map. I wish I had paid more attention in high school. They developed the horse. That helped. And they could use those horses to whip people from other places. They were big in the Bronze and Copper Age. They promoted and did a lot of metalwork. Part of Scythia, Greater Metropolitan Scythia. And then the Kievan Rus, which was a bunch of people, Finnic, Russies, and whatever, Slavics. All right, 3 modern rulers. They never really were independent for very long. I mean, when you say independent, an independent entity called Ukraine. Okay. So the Golden Horde in the 13th and 14th century ruled them, Mongolians. And then in the 15th century, they were ruled by Lithuania-Poland alliance. So you see how all these little countries sometimes they're powerful, sometimes they aren't. And then they were ruled by the Crimean Khanate, which are Turkic. And then Russia takes over in the 19th century. So they never really were Ukraine as far as a country till later. Communist revolution, the same time as Russia. So they were having their own commie uprising when Russia was, but they weren't together. And it's really boring. I mean, I'm sorry, but we'll go on. I was looking at all this Russian stuff, and the more you look into their government and the history, it's boring. Except for, people like Ivan the Terrible. The Soviet-Ukraine War, 1917 to 21. So you had Ukrainians that wanted a revolution in Ukraine. That's what they called their territory. And then you had Russians who were having their revolution. So then when the Russians won their revolution, they started attacking Ukraine. So there was Ukraine nationalists or whatever, and then the communists. But we'll go on. The communists won in 1919, and then they unified into the USSR in 1922, December 30th. Let's make it short. They allowed their ethnic identity to go in the 20s. 20s were a good time. Everybody was starting to get it together after the war, except for stupid mistakes. Then they wanted the Russification in the 30s, and Stalin came along with the Russification. They wanted to homogenize everyone and get rid of their ethnic identities. It's very simple. Starvation of peasants, get rid of the extra people. In the 40s, Ukrainian insurgent army fought for independence from the Soviets and Germany, so they were getting it from both sides. There were Ukrainian nationalists, and they were getting pinched by both ends. I looked up things, and Khrushchev was the leader of Russia, the Soviet Union in the 50s, early 60s, and he was from the Ukraine, or at least he was an official there. It was like the United States, only they were different republics. It's very confusing and very boring. So I looked up this Zelensky, and I didn't want to dig too deep, because everybody has their things, and we can say anything we want about people. But he was born January 25th, 1978, which was 2 years after I graduated from high school, so it's ridiculous. I'm in high school, and people haven't been born yet that are going to lead countries. 44 years old. He ran under a liberal banner, servant of the people, and he is a liberal, total liberal. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, he was an actor and a comedian, and they elected him to be president through some means or another that they use. And I've seen parliamentarian people from Ukraine, and most of them are pretty easy on the eyes. So they're pretty progressive as far as we're not these Russian big Ukrainian bigwigs with our big badges on, stiff faces and furry eyebrows. It's like Ukraine is a modern country, okay? And a few little things about Ukraine that I noticed in the news is they built the world's largest plane. I never knew that. And the largest plane was destroyed or badly damaged. So that kind of sucks. A lot of good work probably went into making that plane just to be destroyed. And I'm watching utter rampant destruction, and I'm thinking that who's going to pay for all that, first of all? And the human payment is going to get on people's nerves big time. And that means crowds and hordes. That means that armed services taking a side, which they did in 1991. They got won over by the people because the people were mad, okay? Now, I want to get back to the Zelensky real quick, because I have nothing much to say about him, except that people say he's corrupt, and people say that he got rid of his political enemies, and there's always conspiracy theories. The most liberal people in America have been accused of getting rid of their political enemies. So I don't want to delve into that, because he seems, from his actions, his volition, he seems like a hero. And who knows what's going to happen, but I'll tell you what I would do if I had a chance to do it, is take a play from the Ronald Wilson Reagan playbook and bomb the hell out of the head guy. Find him and bomb him. I don't care, drones, I don't care, laser beams from space, it doesn't matter. Track him down and kill him. And it'd be interesting to see the reaction. I wonder if everybody in Rusky land would be up in arms that their leader was summarily blown up. But see, Reagan did that with Gaddafi, because Gaddafi was just being a pain in the butt. Gaddafi, for all you people who haven't been born yet, was the leader of Libya, and he was a strong-arm thug of a leader. which is sometimes the want of certain countries. And he was blowing planes out of the sky, and he was just being a general nuisance. So the president said, let's bomb the crap out of his house. And after that, he was very tame. He didn't want anything to do with anything, terrorism. No, just wanted to be left alone. A lot of his family members died. And he ruled the country, and he kind of was on America's side for a while, at least not being a problem. And then he was dragged out by the people, face down, dragged out by his heels, and dealt with in a savage way. So that would be my answer, is just to bomb the guy. And then see what happens, because it might be ding dong, the witch is dead, da da da, ba da da da. Because these Russian people don't want this. It's too late for that now. We got the stupid phones, okay? People can see what's happening. They don't like it. They especially don't like it when it's happening to people that look like them. That's another thing you get from other places, like the racism and hypocrisy, because the Ukrainians look like Americans more than the Arabics or the Palestinians or the Cameroonians or what have you. So we care more. But I do care, because you're seeing a lot of buildings and a lot of people getting blown up. It's indiscriminate destruction. And when you see that, you can only say that it's truly senseless. So if it's senseless, how far is the senselessness going to go? How far do we allow it to go? And I say a surgical strike in one place, the forehead, and that furrowed brow. And I might be in trouble for even saying that. It might be politically incorrect. I'm not sure what the status is on that, whether you can actually, talk badly about your enemy. He's not my enemy right now, but he might be soon. I mean, think about it. I mean, we're very close to an exchange, because you don't know what the heck he's going to do, because he seems to be insane. Then we got another insane guy, Petrie, giving a speech tonight. And that's what I have to say about that. I mean, a blank. What's he going to say? He's got to laud himself. It's going to be ridiculous. The Democrats have to cheer. And it's going to be fun to watch. I don't want to even say anything about that. I've talked about it already. So I will update you on the trucking situation, and I realize they are not going to be there in time for the speech. Which really kind of like, yeah, it's all right. But see, now Petri Dish is going to scurry back to Dover, or wherever he goes. Scurry back to Camp David for a meeting with somebody after this speech. Rest up. So the truckers went from Oklahoma to Indiana. They're meeting at the Ted Everett Farm Equipment Company. They're going to have a rally there today and tomorrow. Today's the 1st, tomorrow's the 2nd. So they're taking their time, and they're going to build up steam. And they're going to get there, and then they're going to say, what exactly are we fighting about? I mean, what are we protesting? Because they've been lifting the mandates, they've been easing up just in time for Petrie's speech. And he's going to say he conquered COVID. He's going to say he got rid of it, which may or may not be true, judging from what they've told us before. So everybody meet at the Ted Everett Farm Equipment Company, and I don't have the city, sorry. Somewhere in Indiana, I'm sure it's easy to find. It's along the freeway there. So they're going to build up steam, and it's going to be a mess, because they're building up steam over in the Yuck-Reign in a convoy, and there's going to be lots of people, because he seems to want to just decimate that country. He says, well, I guess his figuring is you have pride in your country and you want to save your country. Well, we'll just make sure you have nothing to save. We'll just make it useless to even think about, preserving a country at all, because there's nothing there to preserve. It's all rubble. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm sure by the time they're occupying Kyiv, and everyone in Lviv leaves, and they've taken over Kharkiv, we'll be embroiled in a worldwide conflagration. So we won't have to worry too much about that little regional problem. It's going along nicely for Petri dish. People are dying more and more every day. So he can talk about that tonight. And it's almost too long, so I'll bid you a good morning.